The prairie wind howled across the wide expanse of golden grass, carrying with it the thunder of hooves. Clara had been warned not to take the young Mustang out alone, but stubborn pride drove her decision. She wanted to prove she wasn't just a farmer's daughter. Sheltered on the porch, she wanted to feel the pulse of freedom beneath her, to ride like the women in stories whispered around the fire. At first the ride had been smooth, the rhythm of the horse steady as the morning sun warmed the valley. But then, without warning, the Mustang's ears pinned back, its muscles bunched like coiled springs, and it bolted, surging forward as if fleeing from unseen demons. Clara's hands tightened on the reins, her heart hammering, breath snagging in her throat. The wind lashed her face, her hair whipped wild, and fear clawed its way into her chest. The horse ran faster and faster, and the world around her becoming a blur of dust and trees. And with every stride, Clara's grip slipped closer to failure. Not far off, Luke, a cowboy hardened by years of dust and saddle leather, was riding back from the ridge. He had seen the commotion from a distance, the flash of a runaway horse and the terrified figure clinging to its back. His pulse leaped into action before his thoughts caught up. He spurred his own horse into a gallop, the ground shaking beneath him. He knew a runaway mount was a death sentence for someone unprepared, and he couldn't let tragedy strike. His eyes locked on Clara, calculating her path, reading the panic in her movements. He leaned forward, urging his horse faster, his jaw tight with determination. Clara cried out as the Mustang veered sharply, and she lost her seat. Time seemed to shatter into fragments as her body lifted from the saddle. She was suspended in the air, the world turning upside down, dread filling her with the certainty of the fall. But in that split second, Luke launched himself from his saddle. He left safety behind, diving headlong through the dust and chaos, reaching with everything he had. His arms wrapped around her just as gravity began its cruel pull, and the force of their collision stole the breath from them both. They hit the ground hard, tumbling in a storm of dirt and grit, but his body shielded hers, absorbing the brunt of the fall. When they finally stopped rolling, silence fell except for the frantic pounding of their hearts. Clara lay cradled in Luke's arms, her chest heaving, eyes wide with shock. For a moment, neither spoke, the weight of what had just happened hanging between them like the still air after lightning. Then she gasped, trembling. You caught me." Her voice was fragile, disbelieving, yet filled with relief. Luke's hat had been knocked off in the tumble, and his rugged features were streaked with dust, but his gaze held steady on hers. "I wasn't about to let you break on this hard ground," he said, voice low but steady, the kind of tone that wrapped around her like a promise. Clara tried to...
"Sit!" But he kept his arm firm around her, waiting until he was sure she could move. She looked at him then, truly looked, and saw the risk he had taken, the reckless dive, the willingness to put himself in danger for her. Her throat tightened. "You could have been killed." His mouth curved into a faint smile, though his eyes still burned with adrenaline. "Better me than you." The words sank into her heart like an arrow, sharp and unshakable. She had always thought cowboys were men of few words and hardened hearts. But in that moment, she saw something deeper, courage, honor, a selflessness she'd never known. As they stood, Clara's legs faltered and Luke steadied her. His hand lingered at her waist, not out of boldness but necessity, ensuring she didn't collapse again. The Mustang had bolted far across the meadow, now just a dark shape against the horizon. But neither of them looked to it. Instead, Clara found herself unable to pull her gaze away from the man who had risked everything for her. The wind caught her hair, and the sun bathed the scene in gold, but all she felt was the warmth of his presence, the steady strength of his arms still ghosting around her. "You don't even know me," she whispered, almost as if trying to make sense of his sacrifice. Luke tipped his head, his shadow falling across her. "Don't need to. When someone's in danger, you don't ask for introductions. You just act." His words struck something within her, breaking apart the fear that had gripped her since the horse first bolted. She realized she was safe, not because of luck, but because someone had chosen to put himself between her and the world's cruelty. The air shifted, quiet but charged. Clara felt her heart race for reasons far different from fear. She had thought herself brave when she mounted that Mustang, but bravery, she now understood, was not in reckless pride, it was in selfless sacrifice, in leaping without certainty of survival, all for the sake of someone else. Luke had shown her that in one daring dive. The valley stretched wide around them, endless and untamed, but Clara felt her world had narrowed to the space between her and the cowboy. Gratitude surged within her, but so did something new, something unnamed but powerful. Her lips parted as though to speak, but no words came. Luke only nodded, as if understanding everything left unsaid. He helped her to her feet fully, his hand steady at her elbow, and for the first time in her life, Clara felt the earth beneath her as solid, unshakable. The Mustang would be caught later, the dust would settle, and life on the prairie would move forward. But the memory of that moment, the leap, the fall, and the arms that caught her, would live forever in Clara's heart. For in that instant, she had not just been saved from the ground's unforgiving embrace. She had been caught by something far greater: trust, destiny, perhaps even love.